I'd like to read you a little bit of the background information of the seance which we're going to have tonight.
Do you mind? I mean, just
100 years ago, an old house stood on this property, the exact spot this building stands today. And this house has found its way into many, many books. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. William McBain was a sea captain, and from all accounts, not a very nice person to know.
There's another girl here.
A rather angry, cantankerous man who lived alone in the old house. He had spent his life at sea and visited many strange and exotic ports, and everywhere he went, he picked up what he called his souvenirs. His name eventually became an unusual addendum to the city papers, and he ran what many people thought was a museum of the odd and the bizarre. As I said, he lived alone, and that was the way he wanted it. Visitors were not welcome. He had built this house as a sanctuary, his place to be, where he could get away from the rest of the world, a place where he could be alone with his trinkets and curios. One day a stranger came to town asking directions to the home of Captain McBain. He was never seen to leave town. In fact, he was never seen again, anywhere again after that day. The locals said that Captain McBain had probably done away with the stranger and had committed some grisly murder, but nothing could ever be proven. Sometime after that, the captain himself died. It had been his habit to visit the local general store every Friday for his week's supplies. When he didn't show up for 2 weeks, they figured something was wrong and went to the old house to see. The sight that assailed their eyes was something that no man would soon forget. The house was indeed a museum of the unusual. He had a collection of swords and knives from the Orient. On one shelf were 6 shrunken heads, and he had picked up many of these shrunken items from Borneo in his travels in the South Seas. Jars and bottles were filled with strange-looking and even stranger-smelling things. And he had books written in languages that most men could only guess at. Oddly enough, a number of these books were written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. And in the center of the room, sitting rigidly in his chair, was Captain McBain, his eyes staring wildly as though looking at some unseen horror, and his mouth agape as though he had been stopped in mid-scream. The story doesn't end here, however. Since that day, many people have lived in the old house, and everyone was reported hearing strange noises. Some even thought they saw something, although they were never really quite sure of what it was. Eventually, the old house was torn down, and after that, the strangest event of all took place. The land was then just a field of grass and flowers. One warm, sunny afternoon, a little girl was playing in the field. Some neighbors were watching her when suddenly she fell into some sort of hole in the ground. They ran over to help her, but when they got there, there was no hole. The entire field was searched from one end to the other, but no trace of the child was ever found. It was as though the earth had swallowed her up. This building now stands on that exact spot.